for your time and your questionnaire. That's very helpful.
Yeah.
Understand your limited time, and can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Yeah,
It's working out.
okay. And would you mind if I share with you the screen so that you can see what we're going to discuss about today?
Sure.
Here we go. So now you can see my screen here. So my PhD research is about performance management in tech in particular, and I'm aiming for understanding how the entrepreneur and the tech company have been started and able to manage the performance management and for the entire life cycle. And during the course of case study and data collection, I have come up with the 9 conceptual models, and one of which to start with is market understanding and engagement, and maybe we can do together if you
Yeah.
don't mind. So I have so market understanding is the way in which how you engage with the market, customer, understand the team and capability in order to enter um, the achieve the new product and market. And in this particular KPI or the key performance indicator, for the top 5 of the KPI, would you be able to rank them for me, please?
Yeah, I'll do it right now. So I would do.
Sorry.
I would do. Maybe time to market number one.
Yeah.
Customer retention rate number two.
Yeah.
Profitability number three. Market share number four, and I guess number five would be success for new product.
Yeah. And would you mind just share your view of how you're thinking that the time to market and of course the customer retention on consideration of the time to market, and how do you think that the time to market is the most important when you want to engage and understand the customer and the market?
Well, for us, for me, we always wanted to be extremely quick with new products
Yeah.
because we knew that we'd always be incorrect when we launched it. And the more iterations that we did, we figured out more and more about what actually was going to be the fit because it's usually not what we thought it was going to be. And even now, we're still changing it to fit the market. So that's where I was thinking.
Yeah. And may I ask, when you start your business, is that you were actually very young. You were very very young. I assume like might be 21, 22 at the maximum.
Mm-hmm.
And when you
Yeah.
sort of, and also your product is actually outside New York or even in America. So how the idea come about that as a young entrepreneur, and how you see the gap in the market and this business, and how that come about in your idea that you start this business at a very young age.
Yeah. So we noticed, I would say we actually noticed how big the market was growing. I mean, market share maybe, but we noticed how big our category was getting and knew for sure that we, as like using our connections and our, where we, where we grew up and the technology that we had, we knew we could do it better. And we were like, okay, the market's growing at X rate. It's this big. So there is an opportunity here for sure. And it's only going to grow more. And that's why we decided to do it. So
And
that makes
your business is about the coconut water. And in which strategy that you feel you can stand out from your competitor, from a young entrepreneur, and you're thinking outside, there must be a big brand out there. And what is your strategy in mind at that time?
So the strategy in mind at the time was that the product was so much better that there's no way that people would say no if they tried it next to the big brands. So actually, the big brands were a benefit to us because we knew it was too much work for them to go back and try to figure out what we were doing. So we were happy that they were the ones leading the market, and we were just going to come in behind them and kind of like ride the wave of the entire market size. We were such a small niche, and we still are pretty small compared to them. But that's why we were a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, so basically, you start with something that you want to get the best product in the market in this category, and you figure out in which technology or in which process that could make that happen that stand out from the competitor, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And when you come about that idea, then you start sort of before that, and may I ask that if I ask one of the question that when you start the new company at a very young age, do you have like a fear of some common failure that many people entrepreneur might step into, for example, and if no product market fit, or you might run out of fund or technical attainable here, or you don't talk enough with the customer directly to understand the market. Do you have any of these fear at the time that you make such a decision to make a business?
Good question. So for the product market fit, that was not a fear because the market was kind of already there.
So you understand
and it was
market,
growing. Yeah. So we thought that we already understood that, coconut water was becoming popular and we could do it better. So we weren't creating a brand new category. The funds, for sure, that was quite scary. We had never started before. And we weren't sure how we were going to fund it. And customers, yeah, I mean, at the time we were not scared because we thought it was going to be easier than it probably was going to be. And it took a long time until we were able to do that. So that's what I would say. But the technology, no, we did a lot of research on the technology, and we were pretty comfortable with that at the time because we took a whole year to develop it.
Like I see the gap in the market. I want to be the best in the market in coconut water, and then you just try to do research how to make that, or you invent something first and found out that it's fantastic, and then you should enter this market. Which one comes first in terms of technical?
So we actually wanted to enter the market before we knew what we were going to enter with. So we thought the market was attractive first.
Yeah.
But we started our research and said, hold on a second. We know that we can do this better. And then we changed our direction and started looking at the technology and innovation. Yeah. And that's where we were like, oh, okay, now we really think we can be the best if we take our time and start mastering this supply chain, because that's the future for sure. So we could see it when we started. We were trying to outthink the bigger guys who had already, invested all this money in a different technology. So we actually changed the technology.
But how you do that with your co-founder, or you do it in laboratory in the garage, and how you start that?
Yeah, we did it with the co-founder, with my co-founder in Thailand. We just developed it with different labs around the world. We knew what we wanted to do and wanted to achieve, and called people that were more knowledgeable than us in the industry and just did a lot of research. Yeah. And did a lot of testing. Like, it took a long, long time before we were ready with the right product to even launch. And all the equipment to make the product, we had to get input from all different sources. So it was quite a long time until we actually got it to go. We knew what we wanted, but it took a long time to actually get it to happen, to market, for sure. So a lot of lab and testing, for sure.
And when you certify between you and your co-founder, do you go out there to let the customer try it and see, do they feel the same?
Yep, exactly what we did. We started to hand it out and give it away for free and asked people like, hey, what do you think? Is this good enough? Um, will you buy it? We just kept asking people like, will you buy the product or not? And we got maybe 100 different customers. And finally, one of them, who was a large one, said, yeah, please come in. I want to talk to you guys. This is very interesting to me. And then we kind of knew we had a nice product.
Your technology is how to preserve and keep the taste of coconut water exactly the same as it's just cut from the tree, right?
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
fantastic.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
And when
And
you
we're
got,
still
sorry.
learning today about it, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's the original
And
idea.
so when you get a fantastic idea, then you spend a year, get the product, then it come to funding, right? You might need the manufacturer, you need to start up funding. So how you get started? For example, you bootstrap with your co-founder, you get family, or you go straight to talk to the investor.
Yeah, so we did both. But just to start, we did family and friends at the beginning. We thought at the beginning we would not need that much money, which was wrong.
Understand.
So we only raised a small,
not cheap, right?
Yeah, exactly. So like, you know, we knew how much a coconut cost. So we're like, oh, we'll just buy like 20,000 bottles, and it's only like $10,000, and we'll sell it and then make 20, and then buy 20 and make 40. So it doesn't really work like that. But so yeah, we started with family and friends, and then realized that we were going to need more. And then we started to approach investors and banks and all kinds of people for money. So it was all kind of done at the same time. And it was like really mixed matched for us.
Yeah.
Like we didn't actually have an official round until year 3 or year 4.
So you bootstrap for a few years and you get the product and manufacturer running, and in the third and the fourth year you got some funding from investor. Fantastic. And that funding, is it to scale your business? And that stage, how the investor see the opportunity, is that from the scale that you have made in the past, in the first 3-4 years, or technology that you have made, in which aspect that the investor believe that the business could
Yeah,
be global?
good question. They don't always tell you. But what I would say is number one is the growth rate. We've always grown, even with very little resources, and the product repurchase rate is really high, and that's hard to find. I think in every industry, I think a lot of people have difficulty finding a product that sells really well. So that was probably the main thing. And then number two is like the entire size of the market. The size of the market is still growing, and it's already like a $2 billion market, just the water. So I think
Water alone, you mean?
just the water alone. Water alone.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is much bigger than people
Know
thought.
that I born in Thailand, you see that, right? I drink it when I was very little. I never know that coconut could be that 2 billion, because I bought it for 10 cents.
I know, it's true. Like, I mean, it's been in Thailand forever, but in America, it only started in the 90s, I think. I don't even know, or 2002 or 3. And yeah, now it's 2.5 globally, just the water, not including the byproducts. So I think the market size is attractive to investors as well.
May I ask a question that you produce in Thailand and you have manufacturer and all sorts, and your business is more or less a tech-led. You have technology how to make the coconut water the best taste it can be, and how you protect that technology, because of you in manufacture, you open for the worker to do the process, and how you can control the IP, especially you are not being in Thailand as well.
Yeah, so it's kind of an ongoing thing. Regulations are constantly changing, and we're constantly tweaking our supply chain. So we keep certain things separate from certain people, so not everyone knows what we're doing. But I mean, the truth is, like, you can't protect it forever, I think, and you need to keep growing at a certain rate, or else, someone else will do it better or invent a way to do it better than you did. And it's the beverage industry, so you can't really protect it too much. Like, anyone can make a soda. Like, no one can make the Pepsi or the Coke flavor exactly, but they can make something similar. So sure, there will be people coming, but we need to make sure that we keep growing at a rate that people can.
Growing, is that mean that you grow in terms of revenue, and do you have to improve the recipe and being different or being improved on the quality as well? Because if you
Yep,
keep, yeah,
both at the same time.
yeah.
Every week we have meetings about how we can improve the quality and the reliability, the taste, everything. Like, it's nonstop. Like, we did come up with it at the beginning, but it never stops.
Now for decades that have been, I'm not sure it's there 10 year yet, but you still every day part of the process is how you can do a better product, right?
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, and when you're talking about the fundraising, would you mind that if you see the process here, is there something quite conventional like it present in this diagram here? Like you create a pitch deck and potentially you might have some prototype and some sample, for example, and then you have business plan, pitch, when you get the fund, negotiate the term and crowdfunding and then do the development for your product. In this case, you manufacture of the coconut water and then
Mhm.
get the fund through. Is that something similar to the experience that you had when you built this business?
Yeah, it is. It is. Uh, at the beginning, so I'd say there's two parts of our business. So at the beginning, it was more laid back, like family and friends development stage. And the second half of it, it was more classic, like pitch deck, pitch, go to meetings in boardrooms and pitch the idea and the company and the people and all that. So at the beginning, no, you just get money from people that believed in you, but this makes perfect sense. Like, yeah, we've raised 2 rounds now of funding, and this is how it always goes. Uh, it's quite standard, I would say.
Most difficult part, and most of the founder and entrepreneur when it comes to fundraising and people out of entrepreneurship might think, oh, just go to ask for money with a good idea, but the fundraising is one of the most challenging and time consuming for any
It is.
businesses, as we know as entrepreneur. And what challenge you the most and what the most difficult part when you come to investment round, you must spend 3 6 months or more for that process alone.
Yeah. Well, it's not easy, that's for sure. It's super time consuming. I actually don't like doing it at all.
Yeah.
Uh, but I think the most difficult part is, even if you have a good idea and a good product, every investor has a different priority and goal and net worth and liquidity and timing. Like, you cannot guess what they're going through. Even if their website or their friend told you that they are ready to invest, just tell them this. You really don't know. So don't feel so bad when you get rejections. Like, you better just get 30 rejections fast and keep waiting around for people, because you really have no idea where they are. If they just sold a stock that they made so much money on, they might be like, okay, I don't care. So some meetings took 1 meeting or 10 minutes, and they're like, okay, I'm in. Just call me later. But some, you have tons of meetings. So that was one thing. The second is, we've always had pretty good results, so it's not been that difficult for us to raise. So I would say it's much easier to just sell and then go to raise money later than to try to raise off of something that hasn't launched yet or has no data or anything.
Understand. And I'm wondering that during the fundraising in the year 3 and 4, would you consider as well at that time for like a grant funding, like a new technology to preserve the coconut water? Is there any U.S. government or Thai government value that technology and give you like a free money if you like? Did you consider that at that time?
Yeah, we actually looked at a few of them, but to be honest with you, we got so busy that we forgot to
Yeah.
follow through with it. But it's actually a great idea. And the Thai government gives a lot of grants for like people to fly and do trade shows and develop products. So we're looking at it now more, to be honest with you. But before we actually have not gotten it before, but it's a good idea. Definitely would consider that.
For the grant, did you see some similar pattern that is it what the grant provider, either the government body or institute, require when it comes to a grant provider and grant funding? Like they look for innovation technology or new job creation in the economy and growth profit market share of the company and potentially springboard for startup, for example, or provide support and coaching to entrepreneur and mentoring.
Well, what we've seen more is one innovation, especially in Thailand.
Yeah.
They really want you to start doing new things.
Yeah.
Innovation in Thailand is really important, and I would say growth profit and market share is really important as well. Like because we're marketing a product from the country, they like that because it's good marketing for the country. So
View is the balance between the time spent and the that received, it might not sort of worth the time at that time, right? Totally understand. And
yep,
I mean,
correct.
when you start up, that you are of course have done very well that you bootstrap the company growing and thing. But the early stage at the startup, what worry you the most when it comes to financial challenge? For example, can you rate the cash flow as a first priority that you think overnight? That would be the real threat and challenge for finance. And would you mind rate this for me? Like I like to get like 1 to 5. What you're thinking as entrepreneur? What behind you?
Using that list there, or just
Yeah,
anything.
just for this one, or you want to add anything? Please feel free for that, please.
Oh, okay. So for financial challenges, uh, cash flow is number one by far. Yeah, by far. We we took it for it's incredibly difficult, and it can kill you any day. Even when you're big, you can still get hurt with cash flow. So yeah, cash flow is number one by far. Um, second is I'm gonna just see the ones that are on yours right now. The second would be accurate financial forecasting. We had no idea what you think is not what's going to happen generally. And at the beginning, especially, you are so small that you kind of accept things that you shouldn't, and they hurt you. So, you can't trust when people are giving you forecasts. You just can't. And you need to know how to accurately take data and really make a proper forecast because we were quite wrong at the beginning, and now we're getting much better at it because because you.
Well that because the funding is very limited. So every bit and piece of money is really a real impact to the business as well.
Yes, that's true. Every dollar at the beginning counts more than at the end. But I mean, it's always important. Like it's never not important.
But even now, isn't it?
But yeah, even now, it's like every week we do the same problems, but it's just a different level, I would say. But not only that, when you're small, you're more desperate for money, so you'll do business with people you shouldn't do business with. I've learned that. So like we were quicker to sign business with small companies that were not financially stable, and now we wouldn't do that. We would wait and wait for the right person to come around and the right fit.
example, that when you do startup, especially when you are very young, you don't have the salary or anything pay off yourself. You just live as the young man, youngster that you don't need a big pay each year, right? You just put every effort to the business for that funding, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't pay ourselves for 2 or 3 years. Yeah, that's right.
And how you live then, if you don't mind asking? you just graduate, work for a year.
Well, I worked. Yeah, I worked before,
Yeah.
so I had some saved up. I worked for like 2 years, and I had a lot saved up.
Okay.
But I had to borrow money from family because I ran out. So yeah.
Third one is what concerns you when it comes to managing the finance.
Yeah, I mean, what's concerning is as a startup, you don't have a proper financial person. You can't afford it.
Yeah.
So you have to learn it all yourself.
Right. So you need the talent and retaining the talent just to concern you about how to get the right people to the business, right?
Yeah, that's right. But I mean, we were really good at doing it ourselves for a long time. Like I still do the accounting myself, pretty much. But at the beginning, it's like you don't have any idea how to do most of these things, so you have to learn it on the go. But it also doesn't make sense to attract too much talent if you don't have the cash to do that at the beginning, unless you can find it out.
And the fourth one is
the fourth one. For financial, right?
yes, the cover maybe yes, is a finance challenge related to the financial at the business that you what wake you up at night and then you feel that's a threat on the business that you have to
Okay. I would say burn rate is a big deal.
the burn rate.
Like not knowing, yeah, the burn rate is pretty scary because you lose money for the first 4 to 5 years or however long. It's almost impossible not to. So you have to be really, really comfortable that what you're doing is going to pay off in the future. So that goes back to like good financial planning because you can make some pretty big mistakes, and the burn rate increases. So
anything else that you might feel that could be very challenging at that time or even now?
Not really. I mean, just keeping all the finances like legal and straight for tax purposes is very difficult. But that kind of goes back to having a financial manager that's good because you have to maintain all your books properly or else and pay your taxes on time quarterly, or you'll have big problems. So and you have to file in every state and all things like that. So it's incredibly complicated. So that's quite scary and difficult.
Next, I'd like to discuss about the sales. When it comes to sales, and I think one of your strengths since a very young age is you are a good salesperson, right? Because the first two jobs at a very young age that you have done so well, being a manager of the big corporation and growing the career very very fast. So in the sales perspective, what you consider the revenue growth rate is the most important and the profit of course for that, and how this come about? Why you think that? Considering the growth rate, do you think this at the startup point of view, or you think this apply to the big corporation like Pepsi and Co or Nike as well?
And we're talking about sales in terms of how important I think it is to the company, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's important. Well, it depends what your goal is, I think. If your goal is to build a small to medium sized business that is very predictable and very stable, then I don't think that what I put is right. But if you are a big corporation, like a Pepsi or a Coke, or what we want to be, then I think those are definitely number one, because no matter how much you push, it takes way longer than you think all the time. And if you can't show historical numbers that are good, you're never going to get what you need. Like, no bank is ever going to finance you. No investor is ever going to put money in. So if you really want to grow, if you don't have growth rate first, I don't personally believe it's possible. You're just going to die. I think that's my opinion. So I always expect a minimum 40 or 50% growth rate year over year, or else it's quite worrying. And it's happened before to us, but I don't think you should expect less than that, because then that's kind of showing that the product isn't good enough.
And if you see the circle here, like a process of sale, if you like, I like to pick your brain. Like when you start your company, employed by a big corporation, and you had done so well, is the process of sale and how you execute to be believing that you must be one of the top sale person in your company, otherwise wouldn't grow so quickly. For the sale process, would you see similar of the sale process as you see here? Like you develop the strategy and then identify sales channel, develop training, and launch product, ongoing sales activity, and monitor and control the performance. Is this something practical that you had done in your company?
Good question. To be completely honest with you, the answer is no.
Yeah.
I used to believe that is how it would get done, and we tried to do that. We tried hard to do that. We actually had a team of 3 salespeople, and we had a plan, very clear plan. We identified sales channel. We did a huge training. We tried to launch new products. It was consistent and constant, and we monitored performance. But to be honest with you, that none of that really worked. And I'm talking about like startup. None of that really worked. It was like our successes were coming from like seemingly random places that were obvious market fits, and it just happened, and it happened really well. So we stopped doing that because we thought, we need to reassess what we're actually good at, because the revenue is coming from places that we are not focusing on. So I think, speaking from a startup, I think you do need to watch really, really, really closely, like where your 80-20 rule is coming from, like where's your profit and revenue really coming from. And then as you get bigger, then you can start to develop this plan. But until you find that like really, really niche thing that's bringing you all the success, I think you should only focus on that, and not, invest so much time and money in training when you don't know that that's like what actually is going to work.
Is the sales conventional of this circle potentially could be working for the big company, but for startup, you've got to get into the 20% that fit your company and try to find that niche and minimize what unnecessarily that wouldn't be directly benefit to the business. For example, at early startup, the training might not be even applicable, right?
Yeah, 100%. It might not, yeah, exactly. And you need to give responsibility to people that are really talented to like just do what they think is right, and then go backtrack from there. Because like I knew a lot of startups in COVID that have gone out of business because they just thought that their process was fine, but they didn't really think about like if they would have trusted certain people, I think, to make decisions on their own, they might have been in a better place now, because they might have been thinking more long term rather than just like, we'll just sell more to these people that are not going to retain themselves. So, yeah.
Advise the young entrepreneur nowadays that, hey, if you want to follow my success, here is what you should think of when you want to sell and do startup. What this circle look like going to be much simpler, right? What would you tell the young entrepreneur that forgot about this conventional sales circle and just do this? What that would be?
Yeah. I would say it would be way more basic, like here's the product, go sell it to 10 people, and then sit down and really think about it. And then do a lot of research on what has really, and be very honest with yourself of what worked and what didn't work. And then decide on that where you're going to go. So you don't need any training. Just literally go sell it or give it away for free. And then you're going to like throw a bunch of darts at the wall and then figure out which ones proper worked. And then I would just focus on that for a while. I know that's not very clear, but that's what I would do.
Simple, right? And it seems to be
Yeah.
inside out.
So simple.
It doesn't need a lot of tools, it doesn't need a lot of team. So it comes from let's get to sell a 10 package and see how it goes.
Yeah. You don't need to make it complicated. You don't need CRMs or anything like that. Like we actually canceled our CRMs, everything. We were like, enough of this. Stop sending. We stopped doing a lot of things. We were like, what's working right now? Like we need to only do that. Only focus on 2 or 3 clients, 2 or 3 people, just like make that work perfectly. And it's worked quite well for us when we stopped and like really like thought about it.
Very insightful here. I have to appreciate that a lot. Conventional this sale pattern, it seems to be recognized for anybody, but the way that you said it just take out of the conventional cycle and see what the startup have been doing. It isn't as the way most people think of, right? So
exactly.
and then when you started, and if you don't mind, I'm talking about the sales challenge. Everyone have a challenge, and you are commercial retail product or even the wholesale product. So your product is to sell purely. And what's the challenge that you think of when you start your business, or even now? You consider like what uncertain post-COVID world gonna look like, and is there any disconnect between yourself and the team, or ability to identify and execute the sales funnel, or get smart goal? Is it serious about, or you need to stand out from your competitor? What you think is the more challenge on your business in terms of sales?
Yeah. Honestly, all of those things are really hard. It's all hard, but the most challenging. So I would say a disconnect between sales managers and the development team is pretty hard and pretty difficult. We've had to let go of about 5 salespeople already because there was always a disconnect. And I think what we realized it's really hard, especially with the business we're in, I think, to train someone to be at that level to sell a very, very complex product. And like with that, the performance was lacking. So finding the right fit of salesperson has been really difficult.
Of the technology would be able to help that? For example, if everybody on Salesforce or CRM, would that help, or just beyond technology in when you mean for the disconnection?
I guess it's not really a CRM thing for me. It's more of like attitude and what we expect them to do and how they relate to people more than the CRM aspect of it. But
so it's more of the intrinsic communication attitude.
Yeah, more intrinsic. Yeah, everyone was very good at the external reporting and stuff like that, but the intrinsic qualities were very hard to find.
Yeah.
and people you can trust to do certain things when you're not there, or you're not training them, or you're not helping them to do that. Um, that's been very difficult, and there's only a few people now, and they've lasted a very long time because I think they're naturally good at our complex supply chain, and that makes sense. So finding those right people is really hard, but it pays off a lot when you can find them because you can trust them to talk to very large customers the right way. So, yep.
Ask one thing that when you talk about sale, you talk a little bit more of long term. And would you consider like efficacy, efficiency, effectiveness, or elegance, or including the ethical um, on the process? If you like, is there some kind of this metric in mind? And when you try to focus on your business, you do consider the 5E, if you like, or is it just making profit and that is the real key? Would you see the aspect like this as well?
I would say I would say elegance and profit are the most important for me.
Yeah.
Elegance meaning when you said organic growth, like I think that means like the fit of the customers together. I think that for us, like a sale isn't just like hitting a number in a month.
Yeah.
It's when we find a matching company or system that works so perfectly with what we do that it grows by itself and it explodes on its own.
Yeah.
Because everything's clicking at the same time. That's what we found really makes something work really well.
Yeah.
And when that's clicking, you don't need to do anything. It just works. And that's really exciting. So that's what we try to find.
Yeah.
And because of that, you get profit.
Yes.
So obviously, that's what everyone's looking for, but the only way to get that is to have customers that are repurchasing every week or every month sustainably and growing.
Yeah.
And that's very difficult to do. And that's what we realize where all the effort should be going to.
Yeah.
Is that.
You're talking like if you bingo to find a few customer and then they continuously stay with you for years and become an ongoing customer, right?
Yep, that's the most important
Yep.
part. Because it's worth so much in the long run.
It is, yeah. So it's about long-term projection here.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. That very insightful. I think I get the new aspect from you and appreciate it very much. And I'm gonna go for the last one because of your time, if you don't mind. That do you think that the risk management or manufacturing and or marketing, which topic you feel competent that we may walk through with it? I have quite a few here, but I appreciate your time, so we're gonna go just for one last, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I know much more about manufacturing than marketing.
Perfect.
So.
If you don't mind, then we walk through fairly quickly.
Yeah, we can do it really quick.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time. So when it comes to marketing and PR, we have what is it? I like to get something very similar of the unique thing similar to sale that you mentioned. I think it means a lot and it's something really stand out for me. If you know what I mean, I have interviewed for several founder, but I think you really give me something different. So for marketing, what do you think about this and the challenge and what does it mean when you talk to your team? What marketing is all about?
Yeah. So marketing for me, it's probably the least thing we focus on.
Yeah.
But I know it's ultra important, and it's something that we're just slowly starting to focus on now. There's so many challenges with marketing. It's very, very, very difficult to quantify.
Yeah, it is.
And it's something that we still can't really do.
Yeah.
But I mean, the only thing I could say is for a B2B company like us, it's like reputation and referrals, and that is ultimately going to help you. That's all I can say. because like if you're in an industry, it's a pretty small industry. So if you're really good with your customers, I think marketing kind of takes care of itself. And that's what I've kind of learned. But
really think of, okay, hey, we want to get more customers, should put the advert on Google and Facebook, and that isn't strategy that you want to go for, right? For you, it focus on the like your product is actually the tools of the marketing. Am I right saying that?
yeah, you're right saying that. I think that comes first.
Yeah.
And we have a policy that we will never spend more in marketing than profit coming from marketing. So, meaning we have an online store where we sell our products, but we will never spend more than the store is making on Facebook ads or Google ads or anything like that, because that landscape is not what we're good at, and we got to give it time. So yeah, I mean, we will do marketing, but it has to be perfect and it has to be communicated properly. Because if it's not, people are just going to click through your ads or wipe over it. It doesn't really matter. And these big companies are spending millions of dollars on these perfect ads. So I think it's really difficult. I'm pretty scared of marketing.
I assume that, as you mentioned, the marketing is very difficult. As you can see, that it's not really able to quantify. So you rather don't take your risk on big spending, but just spend on something that you believe the return is more than what you spend, and that kind of obvious, right? That's very good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's how we do it. Yeah. That's how we approach it.
And by that strategy, it hardly fails, isn't it? Because you didn't put $1.20 for $1 sale.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. But at the same time, like we're still doing our marketing strategy in the background.
Yeah.
And as we grow, and hopefully it grows, then we can start bringing on people that actually know what they're doing and are very good at what they do. Yeah. And we can do more PR and advertising and stuff like that. But we like to be conservative, and because that's like not our core competency, basically. But I mean, you know, our website has to look good, and the marketing material, it has to look good. But my belief is that the product and the service is the main part of marketing for small companies.
But, I agree with that. And so, and the manufacturing, and I think that it's hard to find, if I be honest with you, it has to be people like yourself who actually involved on the manufacturing, because most entrepreneurs never been in the factory, they're now in the office and things. So what manufacturing means, you know, in your aspect and your KPI raising here, you consider the quality the most important, and the throughput and the competitor and cash to cash and the timing to the market, and how that come about for this aspect toward the manufacturing process.
Yeah, so I put quality as number one for manufacturing. Manufacturers are very cash flow based, and they need to deliver consistent results, or else it can really, really hurt them. So I think that quality is by far the most important, because if you ever have a quality problem, you have to go back to like months and months of product that left from there and figure out what happened. And you might have a lot of inventory and stock that you already made that you're liable for. So just quality mistakes alone are very, very, very expensive. And as a manufacturer, like, you got to do it right. So.
Here as well, that as the manufacturer, you're talking about quality, you're talking about cost, because it's very intensive for cost concern and the time when to get the product out of the line. And how you balance all of this, because it doesn't seem to be follow each other, that it doesn't play out for the best quality at the least cost concern.
Good question. So my answer to that question is, it will never be perfect, and it will never balance ever. But like, I think that at any time of a company's stage, a manufacturer's stage, there will be enough options to make a decision with the management team and say, look, this is our best option for everything that we know right now. So you are going to sacrifice cost short term, maybe, or quality short term for time. But as long as you can manage that and you are very clear and your managers are clear with you that if you do this, it leads to this, then I think people are smart enough, hopefully, to decide which one needs to be not sacrificed, but like not put on the pedestal for this time. Because like we've always changed what the focus is. Sometimes it's only quality, and then sometimes it's only cost. It depends on what we're going through at the time.
Indication of the cost and quality and time, it pretty much depend on as well who is your target customer. Is it like cheap and cheerful, or is it premium or cheap and nasty, and what market you in, and how much your competitor sell in similar product you are in? Is this an influence when it comes to figure out the cost and quality and time into consideration?
Yeah, it definitely is. I think that if you're in a premium market, you are demanded to be the best at quality, and time is less important. So yeah, that is true for sure. I think that if you're in a premium industry, certain things come first and cost comes last. But it's not like you're never going to think about cost. You are definitely going to think about it. Like even if you're in a premium industry, because even then people are asking for discounts constantly. So, but you're right. I think if you're selling like a nasty product to a industry that doesn't care, for sure, like quality doesn't matter. But you know, in the end, the market is the market. So if it's an attractive market to be in, you're going to have people rushing in to go there, and you need to compete. So I think you constantly need to get better at all of them. But yeah, you're right. If it's a certain industry, it's probably more important to focus on a different piece.
Thank you so much for your time, and I really mean that. I think you give something different, and it's very really meaningful, and it become insightful to my thesis paper. Surely your identity will not be disclosed, so don't worry about that. But your feedback it very very useful, and I can see many people will be benefit of understand the aspect that you are in. So I have no surprise and how you become a young entrepreneur and being successful as you are today. So thank you so much for your time that you share your experience and your aspect on being entrepreneur with me, and it's really being so helpful on my research paper actually.
Yeah, no problem. I'm happy to help, and thank you for that. That's very nice of you.
And
hopefully we can see you in Thailand.
yeah, hopefully, Ben, and keep in touch. And we really hope that we meet up. And the next stop for me in 5 minute meeting and talk to June. I think you remember her, and she is finance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she's next door to you. She's in New York as well. I will pass your message to.
Yeah. Like say hello.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, all the best, Ben. Have a great day, and looking forward to meet up sometime in the future.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Good luck on the.
Bye. Take care. Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. See you.